What's up, guys? Welcome to the Real Estate Virgins podcast. We're here with Jordan Brown.
What's going on, everybody?
And I'm John Michael Perez, and we're super excited to bring the value because what we're all about is just teaching and giving you advice based off of what we've learned and our failures, and we're really here to amplify your business.
Yes, if you want your 2023 and beyond to be absolutely incredible, come on the journey with us. We're so excited to have you. Thanks for tuning in. A couple episodes ago was actually super sick, very practical. We went over the buyer's representation, how we prepare for that, what our appointment looks like, and we're going to do kind of the same thing today.
But before we start, I want to say thank you guys so much for listening and sharing the podcast. This is all free, but one thing that we love seeing is people sharing the podcast, posting it on Instagram. We're also uploading the podcast on YouTube as well, so you can go check that out. But if you have a friend, or if you have any friends that need help in real estate, we want to be that person to help. Completely free, no hidden agenda, or just we were those agents that needed help.
And there was no guidebook. That's the thing, is there's nothing to say, hey, if you do XYZ, you're going to be a successful agent.
Yeah. And not to toot our own horns, but we are top producers in the Austin area. I would say we're probably the top 1% in real estate when it comes to representing buyers, representing sellers. And so what we want to do is teach you exactly what we're doing. There's no catch. It's just the thing is like we believe in the law of reciprocity, which means the more you give, the more you get. And so if we feel like if we can give a ton of value, that eventually it's going to pay back in other areas of our life.
Absolutely. And our very last episode was with Grace, who is a fantastic lender. If you have not listened to that episode, you're messing up. Go back, replay it, listen to it. She's so insightful. She lets you know about loan programs. I mean, we talked about everything from lending to like her background. Like, I don't know. We can't hype her up enough. She was incredible. It was great to talk with her, and we're so appreciative for everything she's done for our clients. She can do the same for yours.
Absolutely. So we're going to get started with the tip of the podcast.
Yeah, we're going to start doing this segment here where we try to give you just a practical piece of advice. My tip this week is going to be it's tax season. So realtors, if you're not aware, you are a 1099 employee, meaning that you do not have taxes automatically withdrawn for you, and you can either pay for those quarterly or annually. I do annually. You can do whatever's comfortable for you. But one tip that I'm going to provide for you as a way to prepare for that is put aside about 10 to 15% of each paycheck into a separate checking or savings account and make that your tax account. Don't touch it. Don't use it to pay for Panda Express, Torchy's, and Lucy's Fried Chicken. Make that your tax account so that you're either prepared for tax season and what you're going to have to pay, or it'll soften the blow for you. Because I know there's a lot of people out there who do not prepare, and you're about to get slapped.
So when it comes to finances, what does your bank account situation look like? Do you have like a joint bank account and then a business account, or what does that look like for you?
So mine is honestly, it's probably not as clean as it should be.
Okay.
What one of my goals this year is I want to open up. So I'm transitioning from Wells Fargo to Chase just because there's not a Wells Fargo up near us.
Good idea.
And I'm also getting tired of paying, for someone at a bank to write me a check for somewhere I've banked since I was 18. So
yeah, and the cool thing about Chase is, I don't know if these are all Chases, but if you have a certain amount of money in the account, they don't charge you for checks.
Yes. So I'm going to be moving everything over to Chase just because it's really close to us where we live in Leander, and it's just more convenient. There's less fees, less BS.
Did I just repeat what you said? Sorry.
I don't know. Maybe.
I may have.
Whatever. Hear it twice and they'll remember it, right?
There you go.
So anyway, the way it's set up right now is I have me and my wife have joint access. We basically use the same pool of money. Okay. And for a long time, I had it to where this Chase account was just me. And I would put like my, the big checks into that one so that it was, kind of backup funds. We use our Wells. It's such a weird setup right now. Like our Wells Fargo is what we pay everything with. And I'm like, okay, so my Chase account is my like quote unquote savings. But I'm going to get rid of the Wells Fargo. I'm going to have a Chase account, and I'm going to make a completely separate Chase account that I use just for business expenses.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I do.
Be so much easier for tracking.
It is.
I just had to go through QuickBooks, and for the entire last year of 2022, go through my wife's transactions, my transactions of personal and business, and mark if they were personal or business. And that sucked.
Yeah. And so now, like, just that one business account is separated from my wife's. So any food that I spend on that card is business.
As a business expense.
As a business expense. So yeah, that's a really good tip as well.
Yeah. Is that how you have it set? Or I think you just said that. I'm starting out like -1 right now. I'm 0 for 1 right now.
Yeah. That's exactly what I do. Is I've got 2 LLCs separate from my wife and I's bank account. And if she wanted to get her own bank account, that's cool with her too.
Yeah.
But I think it's good. I have like a temperature gauge. So if my account is under a certain amount, I'll start transferring money to make sure it's at that amount. But yeah. And it's cool because I sort of give myself challenges and I'm like, okay, which one's going to, I'm trying to get this one to this amount and this one's to the other amount. So yeah.
Are you prepared for tax season?
Not at all.
We love it. Love it, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing is like it's so easy to get caught, like especially when you're busy. When you're busy and you're not, thinking about, or if you've got money invested into a property, like if you're flipping a property or something, it gets tough to really stay on top of it. So I totally get it, man. I'm in the same boat. So
I'm still working on it. I'm not gonna lie. I ask for the extension every year, but
yeah, so you got a little bit of time.
Yeah, I do.
Well, that's awesome. So like we were saying last week, we did a 2-episode week yesterday, or that last week. So 2 episodes ago was the buyer representation, the preparation for what that appointment looks like. This week we're going to be talking about what it looks like from the seller's perspective. So before we dive into that, what are you seeing in the market right now?
A few things. One, interest rates have slowed down the increase. So that's a good thing for buyers. I feel like there's a lot more buyer confidence. And so that's one thing that we really need to preach to our clients is that interest rates have slowed down in going up. They didn't necessarily go down, but yeah. And then also I'm seeing the stock market go up as well. So that means more buyer confidence. I'm seeing companies invest, double down. I think we've talked about that within the last couple of episodes was these big businesses are doubling down on the Austin area at least. And when it comes to, there's not multiple offers. I mean, I have seen a couple recently, but they're not as many.
Yeah. And I know that it's easy to get caught up in, you were talking about interest rates. Guys, we totally get it. We're in the industry. We understand some of the skepticism. We understand concerns. Last year, 2022, I don't know if you knew this, was the only year on record, and I hope I'm not wrong on this, but I read this somewhere. Internet has to be true. 2022 was the only year on record that interest rates doubled within that year.
Dang.
So we get it. But guess what? Last week, Grace had talked about, or last episode, Grace talked about interest rates. Yes. Did the Fed increase rates? Yes, but only by 25 points or 25 bips. Yeah. And so in the past, it was 50 bips or 75.
Yeah.
So it's slowing down. Things are getting more predictable. And they came out and said that inflation is not as high as they thought it was. This is all fantastic news for your clients.
So it's normalizing.
Yeah, I mean, not everything's going to be sold over the weekend. $100K over asking price with waived option period inspection. So,
hey, we just talked about this before the podcast, but we just recently had a big, a couple day freeze, and unfortunately, there's a lot of branches everywhere. You're seeing, a lot of sand on the roads so that people aren't slipping. But there was a big question within the real estate agent community, and it was if a branch falls from your side of the house and lands on your neighbor's side of the house, whose fault is it?
It's yours.
Yes.
So if it's your tree, it's your responsibility.
So if it's your tree and it's a big branch and it lands on your neighbor's roof, unfortunately, it's going to be your insurance that's paying for it.
Not gonna lie, pretty clutch on our end. Katie and I got our trees trimmed like last week.
Yeah.
And so we missed the freeze by like a few days.
Nice.
So and our trees are nice and slim and sexy, and none of the branches broke off. So we're good.
One of our short-term rentals, Jordan, before this, sent me a picture of a little branch on the ground, and he said, "We will rebuild."
And then I went to the backyard and there's actual damage. So I spoke a little too soon.
Yeah. But somebody's actually going to be staying at that Airbnb today. No?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, they get here today.
Cool.
Yeah, we had to let them know, hey, ignore the big broken branch in the back and
Yeah.
the down fence. But
Okay, so going into representing sellers, I've had a few listing appointments, all really good. I'm not gonna lie, I kill it with listing appointments. Maybe that's my ego talking, but
a lot of it's confidence.
it really is.
Like we're gonna go over a ton of stuff and like specifics, but none of this means anything if you don't have confidence. And they can sniff that out on you, because
100%.
if you don't believe in what you're saying, that's bad news.
They're not going to believe in you if you don't believe in yourself.
Yeah. So speaking of, do you have a ritual before you go to a listing appointment?
I play. I'm on a new level. I'm on a new level. And
That's your closing song too, yeah?
That's my
That's like
closing
the hype
song, too.
song. That's the pre-listing hype and the
oh, you know what? No, there's that Pitbull song. I believe that we will win. I believe that we will win. And I'll play like some song like that, you know?
Yeah. I do the same thing. I get hyped. I'm like in my car. I'm like getting in the zone. It's almost like you're going to like a basketball game, football game, whatever it is. Like you're preparing, mentally before the game. That's a good headspace to get into. Otherwise, I feel like if there's just quiet, or like if you like way overthink it.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
I mean, on the other side, there's another human. So like that should comfort you a little bit.
Yeah.
But we're going to be going over a ton of stuff about, everything in listing side. We're going to go over preparing for a listing presentation, the presentation itself. We're going to be talking about the transaction process from the seller's perspective, and then pro tips for listings.
I'm excited. Let's get into
All right,
it.
let's do it. So, preparing for a listing presentation. Do you have like a first step that you're doing when it comes to like you get a new lead and they're like, "Hey, John, I've got a house for sale, or that I want to sell." What are you trying to gather information wise from that client in that first interaction?
So it depends on what type of lead it is, right? So if it comes from a lead machine, or if it's a friend or a referral, I treat every single one differently. So basically, the first thing is you got to identify your client, right? And so in my opinion, if it's a referral, I'll always use like, "Hey, your friend Tony told me to give you a call because he said you were interested."
Instant rapport.
Exactly. Oh, and also you could say, "Hey," or you could even say, "Hey, my friend Tony told me that you were good friends with him." And so now you break down that wall of distrust. And then two, if it's somebody that I don't necessarily know, that first conversation basically is trying to provide as much value as possible when it comes to who I am, what my experience is, and also always trying to get the appointment, but we'll go into that a little later.
Yeah, I mean, you're totally right. It so much depends on what I already know about this person and also what they know about me.
Yes.
How they heard about me.
We did some script practicing earlier today at one of our meetings, and we were going over that kind of stuff.
Yeah, like the context is so huge. Like one of our scripts was John was a friend asking me how the market was. And I missed a few questions because I was assuming it was me and John having a conversation. I'm like, "Oh, well, I already have John's contact information. I already know what his house is like." So that affects the questions I'm going to ask.
Yeah.
Naturally. But yeah, anyway, I know that I'm also finding out like things about the property. I'm trying to find out as much information as possible in that first phone call. And the reason being is I'm going to be whenever I see you for that first time, or maybe I met you in the supermarket or something, whatever it is, like when I go to sit down with you and talk about me selling your house, I want to have as much of an understanding numbers wise what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
I need to know what kind of liens you have on the property, and you got to be a little bit careful with how you ask that, because when we were talking about our script practice, that came up. It was, giving out how much money you owe on a property is almost like asking for someone's social.
Yeah.
They get almost a little like, why do you need to know that? Like, well, I'm trying to tell you how much you're going to make on this transaction, right? So again, building the rapport and the trust. If it's someone that you already know, you've probably got a good amount of that already. So
also the way you word things, right? Instead of saying, hey, how much do you owe on your loan? You could say, hey, I'm trying to put a net sheet together. So in order to get the accurate numbers of about how much you're going to be pocketing, could you let me know what the loan amount is?
Yes, just explain it to them. It's so easy.
Yeah.
Like, and the thing is, like I talk about this later on, is they don't know what our lingo means. So like, they may have never heard what a net sheet is. It's like, okay, well, we're trying to figure out how much you're going to walk away from this transaction with. And in order to do that, I need a good understanding of, how much money's left on this home. Do you have any liens against the property from like a contractor or, solar panels, things like that. So I can get you the most accurate info as possible.
I notice I say the word comps a lot, and sometimes
they may not know that.
What is a comp?
And it's so hard because like we talk about it daily, and it's like just comps are just a part of our thing, but your clients don't know that.
Yeah.
So just be conscious of that. They may not always know what you're referring to.
Yeah. Clear, concise communication.
Yep. What are your goals with selling this property? That's another big one to understand, because you can uncover additional opportunities. Do they need to sell this one because they're moving to another state and you now have a referral opportunity? Because if you don't ask that, like, they're going to find a realtor themselves and you're going to miss out on a referral opportunity.
I think one of the most important, and you may have it in our notes, but one of the most important questions is time frame.
Yes. I always forget about, like, not always, but like in our script this morning, I didn't ask time frame.
Yeah.
And it's so important because the information is going to be so much different than if you're selling, like, we need to list this ASAP, or I'm going to list in 6 weeks or 6 months when school's out, or whatever the case may be.
And you'll have a better temperature of their urgency and your own urgency on how fast you need to get those comps, or how fast you need to get that listing presentation, or the frequency of how often you need to be talking to those people is based on the time frame of when they want to actually act and sell that house.
Yes, absolutely. So now you've gotten their information, a little bit about the home, what they're, you've identified the client. And so now you're going to research your comps or comparable properties, and you're going to create your presentation, which I always include a CMA. The CMA is a comparative market analysis, and we'll go into what my CMA actually looks like from top to bottom here in a little bit. And so I love Cloud CMA. I know, like, you use a program. Is it within the MLS that you use yours for CMAs?
It just, for the most part, I'll just do plus 400 minus 400 square feet. And then I'll look at the subdivision. And then I will also look at where the house is as compared to any major roads, right? Because if it's across the street of a major road, it's going to be a completely different. So for the most part, it's going to be a completely different neighborhood or type of neighborhood.
Yeah. And I know for me, I try to get the comps or I'm just going to say comps because we're talking to other realtors here. The comps that I'm getting you want to make them as close as possible to where that property is. Because if there's a comp that's a mile away, just like John said, that could be in a completely different neighborhood with a completely different price point, with different amenities and different offerings. So you want to make sure it's within the community that your subject property is in, and make it as close as possible. If it's on the same street, even better.
Yeah, I know sometimes there's situations where it's harder to get comps, and so. I would say just start more specific, and then if there's not as many comparable homes, then slowly get less specific.
Yeah, I always try to do it within a quarter mile radius is kind of what I start with. And if I've got one result and it's an active listing, I'm like, well, crap. Now I gotta you either have to roll back your dates or to keep that same quarter mile radius, or you have to up, to a half mile, to 1 mile.
And that brings up a different point. Do you just show them the closed comps, or do you show them the active comps as well?
So I show them active because I want to show their competition.
Yes.
And I show them everything. I go pending, I do active under contract, and I do closed. For closings, especially in this really fast changing market, the lower the amount of days, the better, because the market now may be different than what 90 days ago was.
Yeah.
It is different. It's changing. You know, the people back in March of 2022 had a very different comp base than June of 2022. That's how fast the market can change. It's really important that you're showing an accurate reflection of what's happening right now.
I agree.
But yeah, and we talk a little bit about that later on, about why it's important to include active listings so that they can get the visual themselves.
Nice.
So I'll just dive into it. We're going to go over what the actual presentation, which is the physical copy that I'm bringing, what that is. And feel free, like, jump in here, like, you know, give them tips on it, why this is important. But I'm just going to go kind of top to bottom of what is included in this. So in my presentation, I always start off with a little bit about the brokerage. We are not, you know, Tyfke Real Estate is not a big box brokerage. It's not like a KW. It's not a Coldwell Banker, places like that. So people may not know much about us. So to legitimize ourselves, I tell them a little bit about Tyfke Real Estate. So then I go over who I am, a little bit about my expertise, my background, what's important, the fact that I live, shop, eat, breathe, everything Leander, Texas, and that kind of establishes myself as that local expert. Then I go over what a CMA is. So not the actual CMA, it's what is a CMA. Again, they do not speak our language.
So are we talking, and I hate to interrupt, but are we talking about that's the first thing you do during your presentation?
No. This is the actual presentation itself.
Okay.
This is what I'm including in the packet that I'm giving.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I have the actual listing appointment a little bit later on.
Okay, cool.
So this is kind of like what you're preparing to give them. So this is just kind of start to, you know, top to bottom, what I'm going to be providing to them once I get to the appointment.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So what is a CMA? This is important because buyers and sellers, again, do not speak our language. If I say, hey, here's your CMA, they have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. So this goes over in depth, like what we're reviewing, how I'm coming up with numbers, things like that.
One thing I do during that time is I ask them questions like, what do you think about this house?
Oh, while you're actually like showing the active or like the other.
Hey, so this house sold for 2,600 square feet and your house is 2,500 square feet. So if you were to compare the difference, what are your thoughts on that? You know?
Yeah.
And so now they're starting to think, well, maybe we should lower the price a little bit more.
Yeah. Or, you know, hey, this house was the same square footage as yours and this was one street over. What do you notice about this home that's different than yours?
Ooh, I like that.
And it's like, oh, well, they have this really nice updated kitchen. Okay, cool. What else do you notice? They have, you know, vinyl plank flooring instead of tile. Little things like that to help get them to self-identify how their home stacks up to the competition.
Yeah, and I always tell them, like, hey, we make these decisions to price your home based off statistics and not emotions, right? And so a lot of times these people are like, oh, well, we've lived in the house for 25 years, so it's worth $50,000 more. No, it doesn't matter.
Sellers are emotionally attached to their house. And
100%.
it's you've got to come in and be like, okay, hey, I totally get that. I'm so happy you had a great experience with this home. In order for me to sell it for you efficiently, I have to show you why I think it's worth this.
And we've talked about this, guys. I actually said this at a listing appointment very, very recently, a couple days ago. I said, guys, I'm going to tell you what you need to hear and not what you want to hear. And you want an agent telling you the actual statistics and not, oh, yeah, I could sell it for $550, when in reality, there's no comps that would sell it for $550. Or there's other houses that have been on the market for $550, but they've been on the market for 125 days.
Yeah, and these figures and these numbers and this research establishes you as the expert. Not them. It's not what they've seen on Zillow. It is you. You are the reason that you're the solution to sell this home.
Yep.
And here's why. I know my shit.
Yep.
That's it. Mm-hmm. So after reviewing the comps, I asked them based on what they saw, what they think that their list price should be. So after we've reviewed everything and you've seen what your competition offered, what they sold for, are you still unrealistic? Or do you have a better understanding of where we need to be? Mm-hmm. And that's important.
Yeah.
And so
I've had unrealistic clients before that even after I told them that, they're like, well, I still think it's like,
and that's going to happen. ultimately it's their call.
What
right?
do you? Well, let me ask you though. What do you do in that situation?
So I would say, okay, so thankfully I have not been in a situation like that. However, if I were,
I have.
so if I was, and someone's, even after viewing, if it was, it also depends on how much we're talking. If we're talking, we're 15K off, that's different than 150K off.
Yeah.
So if we're 150K off and everything I just did not convince you that that's inaccurate, I'm probably dealing with an unrealistic seller. And this may not be the fit for me.
So this is what I do. I say, okay.
You just made... Sure.
No, I say, okay, if you're really persistent on pricing it at 550, then what I'm going to do my absolute best to sell your house at 550. But 3 weeks from now, if we don't get that much traction, do you agree with me to drop the price to where we need it to? And 99% of the time, they're going to say yes.
Yeah, you gain that agreement up front.
Hey, let's get an agreement that if we're not getting any traction and we're getting feedback that's saying it's too high priced, that you agree that 3 weeks from now, we're going to drop the price,
Yeah, that's good. I mean, you heard it. That's really solid, because you want their buy-in as to, hey, okay, fine. Ultimately, it's your decision. But when that doesn't work, what are we gonna do? We're gonna listen. We're gonna listen to me then, okay? Yeah. That's pretty much what it is, right? And ultimately, it's your client's choice. You can do everything to provide them accurate information, but it's their call. So, and then you gotta try. You gotta try it, and you gotta sit there and smile when people are like, "Hey, like the house right next to you just sold for $100K less than that. Why is this one worth more?" And you're like,
yeah,
because they said so. Right?
Yep.
But anyway, so yeah, gain the agreement. You make sure that they're okay with, make sure it aligns with their goals too. Hey, I can try to sell it at that higher price point if you're willing to waste another month, right? And by doing so, your holding cost for this mistake is this.
Yeah.
You said to me that your mortgage payment is $2,500 a month right now. Are you okay with losing $2,500 to try to sell at this much higher price than what I just showed you? There's a few different ways you can take it, feel it out with your client, but it's okay to say, by doing this, your potential waste is this much.
Yeah.
So anyway, so hopefully you're on the same page. The next page of my CMA presentation is why you need a realtor. Kind of goes over the expertise that we provide, because some people are for sale by owners, and they're just trying to pick realtors' brains to kind of get an idea of if their pricing is going to be correct. So if that is this, then it gives them a chance to see what your value is, and you to convince them that you are the correct solution.
I also try to tell them the value as to, I'm here to protect you guys, right? Like, we have contracts and agreements that give disclosures, like a seller's disclosure. Mm-hmm. And also, I'll give little bitty hints, not the entire thing, but I'll say, hey, there are documents, like documents that you need to give the buyer, that if you do not give them in the proper amount of time, you will lose the buyer.
Yeah.
And the thing is don't tell them the actual document. Like, usually it's the municipal utility district document. But don't tell them that, the actual document, right? Because that's knowledge that you have that, guess what, if they just use it, if they just use the information you tell them, now
you just gave them a little bit of your value for free, basically.
Yeah.
So then the next page is commission distribution. I always let it be known up front. John and I actually have this thing that we're working on, which is going to be a menu for them to pick from. So we have an option that's, what our standard is. We have one that's above the standard. We have one that's below the standard, so that they can pick what the best option for them is. You don't have to do that, but you do have to let it be known how you're going to be paid.
Yeah, so generally, most agents, they pay for the pictures, they pay for the marketing, any printing, like flyers, stuff like that.
Ad spend,
stuff like that. So you can You can say, hey, just for example, and I hope I'm not taking too much time,
Nope.
but just for example, 5.5%, we're not paying for pictures, you're paying for pictures. We're not paying for flyers, you're paying for flyers. And 6%, you're going to get 2 open houses for 2 weekends in a row. You're going to get flyers. You're going to get pictures taken care of, all marketing taken care of. And 6.5%, I don't know.
We'll stage it for you.
Yeah, we'll stage it for you, or we'll get a designer in here to give you a free consultation and tell you exactly what you need to do.
We'll buff up how much we're going to spend on ads. Like
Exactly.
That's why there's a menu, right? So they can pick, can they afford to pay out this much, and what they're going to get for that. Mm-hmm. So they feel good about it too, right? You don't want to just be like, this is what I charge, deal with it. And you can, like, it's just all about.
And also, I'm not going to lie, when it comes to the pricing time, I just try to normalize it as much as possible. Like, yeah, so my brokerage charges 6%, and that's going to come with pictures. That's going to come with this. That's going to come with that. And I just say the 6% really quickly.
Yeah.
Right. And then I say, we don't get the full 6. We actually take care of the buyer as well. So they're going to get paid 3. Yep. We're going to get paid 3. And for the most part, we don't get kickback. But if we do, then we just try to provide value and tell them how we are worth that much.
Yeah, it's like out of everyone in this transaction, like being the listing agent, I'm making the least amount out of everybody. If I'm paying for X, Y, and Z, and I'm getting the same 3% as this other broker or brokerage, then,
Yeah, give them your little tip. Not little, that sounds bad. There's a TikTok video. There's a TikTok video about a wife that she wants to see how long it'll take for him to say something when she says, "Hey, how was your little workout?" Or how did
I'm not familiar with what you're talking
It's
about.
a funny video. Anyway, give them a tip on how to fight back when it comes to fighting on your commission.
Oh, so like if they're asking for a piece of my commission as a kickback or something, or a discount on it. Yeah. So here's the thing. Discount realtors give discount service. I said that in the buyer's presentation one. But in addition, if I cannot negotiate my own pay, how do you expect me to negotiate for you?
Guys, did y'all hear that? Say it again.
If I can't negotiate my own pay, how do you expect me to negotiate when it comes to a buyer?
So
who's buying your house? Like when we're dealing with tens of thousands of dollars and you're over here trying to peddle me for like a few thousand, come on now.
Yeah, exactly.
So you gotta, and here's the thing is you are being paid for your expertise. The reason you're going to have a smooth transaction is because I am versed on the market. I'm not an idiot. Like I know what I'm talking about.
When you have questions, I'm going to pick up the phone.
Yes. Like I'm available for my clients at all times. If I'm up, I'm going to respond to your inquiries.
I had a client recently for a listing appointment. I said, so if you don't mind me asking, why did it not work with your last agent? Right? Because they listed it before and it didn't work out. They said, we never were able to get a hold of him. And their systems and their processes were so robotic that they didn't even know what was going on. And so, yes, systems and processes are absolutely important when it comes to the back end of your real estate career, but make sure that you still have that relational aspect of your business.
Yeah. And one of my listings right now, I have gone twice. They're out of state. I have gone twice during this freeze to drip their faucets. Do you think a discount realtor gives a crap what happens to that property?
Absolutely
not. So that's the difference, is I care. And it's not even because of the money. It's just I'm a caring agent and I'm not going to discount my value because of that.
And our motto is the agent that cares the most
wins the most.
Yeah.
So marketing action plan is the next thing. So I like to go over kind of, the first week, here's what I'm going to do for your property. And then once we go live, that second week, here's what we're going to do. If it gets to a third week, here's the continuous activities that we're going to do. So they have a good expectation as to what my plan is for their house. And it stays pretty consistent almost no matter what. I mean, some of it varies depending on if like their home, if they occupy the property versus if it's vacant. There's some details in there that need to be worked out. But for the most part, the plan is the same. Then I go into a page that has suggestions for preparing the listing. That makes it to where, we're decluttering. We're, if you need to make some slight repairs, do so before pictures. Just some little tips to try to make the house be shown in its best light. So,
Okay.
And we'll expand a little bit more into that. So lastly, I have my open house checklist.
What?
What?
I didn't know that.
What?
Open house checklist.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like what, things to do before the open house, what I'm going to be doing while I'm at the open house.
Okay.
Things like that.
Okay.
Yeah. What kind of conversations like.
So do you have that in your actual presentation, or
Yes.
what does that look like?
So it's the actual checklist is not in. It's more for them. It's like so that they know what the open house's purpose is and why I'm doing an open house.
Okay.
Basically, next to last, we go to the listing paperwork overview. I like to kind of go through what I'm going to be having them sign, what it all means, what they're agreeing to, and there's a nice little breakdown in there. And very last, I do the net sheet. So the net sheet is just, hey, based on the information that we've talked about, you told me you owe this much on the home. After the split, after the expected fees at this price point, this is what you can expect to walk away with. And what's really cool is if you're local here in Austin or in Texas or wherever Austin Title is at, all over, the Austin Title app is freaking sick.
It's so good.
Even the free version, it's $10 for the year. Like, get the premium version. They have a ton of content that you can share that's already pre-made with your brand and everything on there. But what I use at every single listing presentation is their net sheet. That way, if I don't have that information and I now have it while I'm there with them, I get on my phone, I plug in the information, and I can show them right then and there what they can expect to walk away with.
Yeah, and also if you got something wrong on the net sheet that you already printed out or that you need to change, you could literally pull up the app and just be like, hey, okay, let me just change this, and this, and show it on your phone.
Oh, now this offer is going to be with 10,000 in concessions. Boom, there it is.
Exactly.
Here's your new net.
There's literally a section that says repairs. And so if you show up at the listing property and the listing appointment and the roof needs to be fixed, well, now you can put that amount in the repair section and have a more accurate net sheet.
Yeah. So it's Austin Title Agent 1 is the app. Freaking amazing.
And if you need a title rep, Reagan is super awesome with Austin Title. She would be able to help hook you up. The only thing is that, it's in the exchange of actually using them as a title company. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's it for my actual CMA. That's what I have prepared, printed out in the documents that I'm going to be handing them during the listing presentation.
So when it comes to the actual listing appointment, do you do anything to prepare?
I just get freaking hyped.
Okay.
I'm
Let's
blasting my
go!
music in the car. I'm slapping myself in there. I'm like, we're going to get this appointment. And so, no, yeah, I mean, aside from like the research and just like knowing my client, knowing the situation, if I have all that information, I'm ready to go.
Okay.
Do you have some like to add to that?
So you were probably already going to say this, but I usually verify within a couple of days before the listing appointment.
Yes.
Hey, are we still on? Are we still on for the appointment? And I actually did that just like yesterday.
Yeah.
And they were like, hey, can we reschedule? Totally fine.
Same thing for me this week.
Totally fine. Yeah, let's reschedule. When's a good time? Is Friday or Saturday a good time for you? And I always throw out suggestions when it comes to the reschedule. But yeah, always verify. And then if they say, yeah, we're good to go, I try to show up 5 minutes before the actual appointment. Yeah.
Cool. And I also, you're right. So that brought it up was verifying that the time still works. And also within that so once they say, yes, we're still good to go. Fantastic. I have YouTube videos that I send to them before I go, especially if it's someone I've never met before. And the reason being is that they're seller focused videos with a good expectation of what I'm going to require for them to get their house ready, tips to put their house in the best light. And it gets them to feel like they know me before I even arrived.
Guys, did y'all hear that? That is such a good tip. He stole that tip from me.
Yes. Yeah. They're called evergreen videos. It's basically a video that you record one time and you can have it multiple uses. So I have that up on my YouTube channel where people can just, browse and look, but I use it specifically to send to my clients before I meet up with them.
I've never seen that video for your...
You haven't?
No.
I need to refilm it, honestly, because I had my long hair and I still had like this going. And,
Yeah,
and I'm a little cleaned up now, so I need to refilm that.
I think I need to refilm mine too, but I do the same exact thing, guys. Video, evergreen video. That's the definition, is where you can use it multiple times. And just like Jordan said, send that video after you confirm the appointment or after you have the first initial phone call to pre-qualify them and to set up that appointment. And it's just so important. It makes you look like the professional.
Absolutely. When you arrive, what's the first thing you do once you get to the listing appointment?
First thing I do is I walk in, I say, hey guys, how y'all doing? And then I say, do you mind showing me around the house? And the reason why I do that is because, one, that's a great opportunity to build rapport. Number two, it's a great opportunity to get eyes on the house and see if it needs any repairs. And that's one question I ask is, does it need any repairs? And so, yeah.
Yeah, I had an old team member who told me, like, no, I sit down and I talk to them for like an hour before I look at the house. And I'm like, dude, like, and that's like their rapport building time, which there's multiple strategies. But what I've found that works is, especially if it's someone that I don't know, like they don't want to chit chat before, like they know what we're here for.
Yeah.
Right. And it's all centered around the house.
It's also important to treat every client as if you are the professional and they are the client. So Jordan was actually shadowing me on a listing appointment one time, and I did the exact same thing. This was a friend of mine that was ready to sell his house, and the first thing I did was I asked them, can you show me around the house? And then we had that listing appointment later.
Yeah. And the whole time, like John said, you're building rapport. You're building rapport while you're talking to them. Oh, you have this, like I have one of those too. Or like, oh, I have something so similar. That's awesome. I love how you use this space. And you're also making mental notes of what needs to be updated, if anything, to bring it to top of market. And if you sit down before looking at the house, they may try to jump you with those questions beforehand and you don't know the answer. You don't know what's wrong with the house yet. So you're going to be more well informed by having them to give you the tour first.
Yeah. I'll say things like, oh, these floors are so nice. Did you do these? You know, or did it come with the house, you know? And so like building that rapport, complimenting them on things that they may have changed. It just really helps when it comes to the actual sit down presentation.
Yeah. So then once you walk through the house, you sit down, you go over the CMA, you answer questions.
I generally say, hey, do y'all mind if we find a place to sit so we can talk about the strategies that we're going to do to sell this house?
Yeah. And I have a closing move that I go to every time because it evokes a response to let me know if I'm in the running for their business. Right?
What is that?
I always ask them, when would you like me to get the photographer scheduled?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Because if you're going to use me, I'm locking you up right there because I'm going to get an appointment for the photographer to come out. If not, if you are on the fence, it forces you to tell me in some fashion that you're not ready to make a decision. Oh, we're interviewing someone else or whatever. So I get an immediate feel before I even leave the house if I'm walking out of there a winner or not.
That's a ninja trick right there.
Yeah. Yeah. But like I said, I always like to try to see who I need to focus my energy on, and the quicker I can find that out, the better. So forcing them to give me some kind of indication is my Jedi mind trick there.
I like it.
So how long before you reach out to that client again? You know, let's say you went and you did the presentation. How long before you reach back out to them to either follow up, or what does your follow-up game look like after that listing appointment?
Usually it might be a couple days, and I'll say something like, hey, it was great meeting up with y'all. I look forward to working with you in the next couple months, couple weeks, whatever. And as soon as you're ready, give me the green light, let me know, and I'll get those pictures scheduled for you.
Nice. Yeah, because then you're not, they don't feel like you're bombarding them or like you're desperate for business or like you're desperate for their response or something. You want to give them enough time. If they're interviewing other agents, let them do so. Just be confident in what you brought to the table so that you don't feel like you left something out or oh, hey, like, I really want to know what you thought about me. Like, don't worry about it. They'll let you know.
Yeah, exactly. Don't seem too hungry, or not hungry. Don't seem too desperate, because desperation unfortunately pushes people away.
Yeah. To wrap up this episode, let's give up some tips for sellers. So like if you were to tell sellers, here's what you need to do to put your house in the best light, what does that look like?
So a few tips to get your house ready to sell is, one, declutter as much as possible. And these are things that I tell my clients. Declutter as much as possible so that when buyers come in, they can see the house as their own. Number two, I'm a Christian, but when it comes to religious things, I ask them to take down religious things, because you never know.
Or like pictures, like personal things.
Exactly. Because the more that buyer can walk into the house and picture it as their own, the more possibility for them to actually purchase the house. And then number three, I tell them, if you want to declutter, put everything in the garage, right? So buyers don't care if your garage is full of storage, because they know you're going to be moving.
Would you rather see that the house has a full bedroom or that the garage is full? No, you want a good idea of what the bedroom's going to look like.
Exactly.
No one gives a crap what the garage looks like, right? It's a standard 2-car garage. Move on.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, those are the 3 tips that I have.
Yeah, and also professional photography. We get a little bit of push. I've never gotten pushback, but I've heard people online say like, "Oh, like iPhone pictures will do." Brother, it does not.
No.
It looks so amateur, and that's one of the differences, and that's one of the value adds that you're bringing with your either standard or above standard packaging for your offer, is that to put this house in, because everyone's going to go on the MLS and look at this. What is the first thing they see? The first picture.
What if your future clients see that you used iPhone pictures for your last listing? Like, that's embarrassing. In my opinion, that's embarrassing.
Yeah.
And so you don't want to be known as the agent that is not using professional pictures.
Yeah, taking pictures on your iPhone 6S with the 8 megapixel camera, trying to sell a $500,000 house. It's just a bad look.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to be making $10,000 to $15,000 and you're not willing to spend $150 on professional photos, like, you need to reconfigure like what you're investing in, right?
Yeah, your priorities.
Yeah.
Put your clients first. It'll always come back to you.
Yep, I agree.
Well, guys, this has been a really great episode. This is, again, just one of those really practical ones. Go back, re-listen to it, rewind it, pick apart what you want to include in your CMA. Maybe look at things and what you have now versus, man, that would really enhance my confidence or my presentation. There's a lot of value in here. And as always, it's free, baby. We ain't charging nothing.
I know. And one last tip, and I've said this in several other podcasts, the big secret is to always give your potential sellers a resume of contacts for your past clients, right? And so it's one thing to show them testimonials, but it's another thing for them to call your actual past clients and say, what was it really like working with John Michael Perez? And so when they actually call those past clients, they have this, oh man, I had an amazing time. Like, you definitely have to use them. And then when they actually have that conversation, for the most part, those past clients will call you or text you and say, hey, I just got a call. And then guess what you do right there? You gift those clients, those past clients, and say, thank you so much. Just another opportunity to reach out to them.
That is a big brain move. That is ninja moves right there. It's a game changer, because testimonials, like John said, are great. I think everyone should have them, but no one's going to put crappy testimonials on their presentation. But getting someone else's influence to vouch for you, that just instills a new level of confidence that you can't achieve with words on paper.
Absolutely. So we're going to be closing it out. We appreciate you guys watching this podcast, listening to this podcast. Guys, we've got so much momentum going on, so many new listeners, and it's so awesome to see all the agents listening, actually implementing some of the tactics and strategies that we're talking about in these episodes. So we appreciate you so much. Please continue to share it with your friends. Share it with these agents that are really literally struggling right now, because we want everyone to succeed.
Absolutely. It's possible. Just implement it, believe it, and practice it. Put it into your daily life. It's what's absolutely changed our business, and we know it can do the same for you.
All right. See you guys.
Go
Bye.
conquer your local market.